Have you ever stood right in the middle of a noisy, crowded room, surrounded by people who are supposedly family, yet felt like the most isolated, lonely, and unwanted person on earth? Welcome to my tear-filled diary. For those who don't know me, I am Emily. Driven by a burning love, I left my modern life in America to follow my husband and become a daughter-in-law in a traditional Vietnamese family. But my dream of a happy home quickly shattered, replaced by days of facing a mother-in-law who deeply discriminates against my Western roots. After the horrifying disaster of the funeral flowers misunderstanding in the last episode, our relationship officially fell into a pitch-black abyss, seemingly beyond repair. A heavy silence and hostile atmosphere blanketed the entire house. However, a few weeks later, Min's family hosted an incredibly important event in Vietnamese spiritual culture, the grand death anniversary of his late grandfather. From the crack of dawn, the usually quiet house became bustling, packed with dozens of aunts and uncles who traveled from the countryside to help. The air was loud, chaotic, and thick with the smell of incense like never before. Despite being deeply traumatized by my previous cultural mistakes, I tried to comfort myself. I told myself, this was a golden opportunity, a final lifeline to lift my spirits, prove my good intentions, and show everyone that I am a dutiful daughter-in-law who cares for the family and desperately wants to fit in. To show my absolute respect for my husband's family culture, I woke up very early and carefully dug through my closet to choose the most modest, polite outfit I owned. I neatly tied a fabric apron around my waist, took a deep breath to gather my courage, and confidently stepped down into the back kitchen, an area that was smoking heavily and echoing with the sound of chopping. Down there was a dizzyingly busy, chaotic scene with countless baskets of fresh green vegetables, bright red cuts of meat, and giant pots of broth boiling furiously on the stoves. I tried to push away my insecurities, putting on the brightest, most radiant smile I could muster. I timidly walked over, bowing my head and greeting each of Min's aunts with my very limited, broken Vietnamese. With the utmost sincerity, I rolled up my sleeves, intending to grab a small red plastic chair and plop down on the floor. I was eager to help them with manual labor, like picking through herbs or slicing meat. I absolutely didn't mind anything. I was ready to do the most menial, dirtiest jobs, ready to get my hands covered in grease or let sweat soak my shirt, all for one miserable, tiny hope: to be acknowledged as a flesh and blood part of this extended family. But the eager smile on my lips instantly died, freezing like a statue when Madame Lan suddenly stormed down into the kitchen. She pushed through the crowd of relatives and marched straight toward me with a hardened face. Her bony hands gripped my arm, her fingers digging in so hard that I felt a sharp pain. With immense force, she aggressively dragged me out of the cooking area. Right in front of all the busy aunts, she loudly shooed me away in a cold, piercing tone filled with ultimate contempt. "Go sit upstairs right now!" The food offered to our ancestors is incredibly sacred. It must be made by the family's own hands to remain pure. You are an outsider. You don't know how things work in this house. You'll bring bad luck and ruin the elders' entire offering tray. Hearing this, a few aunts who were mincing meat on their cutting boards stopped. They looked up, threw me glares as sharp as razors, sneered, and nodded strongly in agreement with Madame Lan's toxic judgment. In that humiliating moment, all my enthusiasm, all my naive sincerity felt like it had been slapped with a bucket of boiling water, burning me right in front of a crowd of relatives. Stripped of my rights as a daughter-in-law, blatantly chased upstairs in the most humiliating and disgraceful way, I turned my back and walked away, dragging my heavy feet up the stairs like a condemned criminal sent into exile. I slunk away, shrinking into a tight ball in the darkest, most hidden corner of the long sofa. Down in the kitchen, the thin walls couldn't block out the lively sounds of chopping, blending with roaring laughter, intimate family stories, and old memories that I, an outsider, would forever, never understand or touch. I looked out into the sunlit courtyard, seeing Min, the husband I had sacrificed everything for running around busily, happily laughing and welcoming guests, leaving his wife to drown in isolation. My chest tightened in agonizing pain. In that exact moment of abandonment, I realized a cruel, bitter truth. Even if I carry his last name on a legal marriage certificate, even if I exhaust myself trying to sacrifice and blend in the eyes of this family, I will forever just be a lingering, unwanted ghost. I felt completely invisible, worthless, alone, and pathetically out of place. I knew then that I would never, ever truly belong to their closed, prejudiced world. But the pinnacle of the hurt, the most bitter trampling of my dignity, only truly happened when the solemn worship ritual began. Everyone in the house, from old to young, dressed neatly, clasped their hands respectfully, and lined up perfectly in front of the smoking ancestral altar according to family rank. Madame Lan, as the eldest in the house, stood solemnly at the very front. She carefully, reverently lit bundles of bright red incense, then turned around to distribute a few sticks to each descendant so they could pray to their grandparents together. I, too, obediently clasped my hands over my chest, standing timidly at the end of the line, waiting for my turn. But when I shyly took a step forward to receive the incense from my mother-in-law's hands, Madame Lan suddenly froze. Her cold eyes swept over my face like she was looking at an invisible entity. She immediately turned her back, cruelly ignoring my hand left, reaching out in midair, and decisively jammed all the remaining incense sticks directly into the bowl on the altar. That ruthless, brutal act in front of such a spiritual space wasn't just ordinary rudeness or dislike. It was a death sentence, the most malicious and toxic implication possible. In her eyes, I was a dirty Western outsider, carrying a foreign, inferior bloodline. Therefore, I would never have the right, never have the authority to bow to or stand in the same ranks as the sacred ancestors of this prestigious lineage. When it was time to serve the feast, I carried a shattered soul, sitting silently like a lifeless wooden statue next to Min, amidst the loud, chaotic dining tables. I tried to pick up every dry grain of white rice, struggling to swallow it down along with the tears of self-pity brimming in my eyes. Suddenly, all the surrounding noise seemed muffled when an older, respected uncle sitting at the next table unexpectedly raised his chin and pointed his attack at Madame Lan. In a booming, loud voice, clear enough for all 3 tables to hear perfectly, he asked, "So, when is our Min going to divorce this Western girl to marry a proper Vietnamese wife who knows how to give him kids, huh?" Hearing that, the blood in my entire body boiled, then instantly froze solid. My heart raced. I held my breath, my hands gripping the hem of my shirt tightly, desperately waiting for Min, my husband, or at least Madame Lan to speak up, to get angry and defend my honor. But there was no sound of resistance. Madame Lan simply lowered her chopsticks slowly, letting out a long, heavy sigh of helplessness. She shot me a sharp, glaring look, then turned to answer the uncle. "What can I do? My Min's fate is miserable. He got stuck with this burden, so he just has to endure it. I'm out of options." My ears rang. I felt like I had been struck by lightning, completely paralyzed on the spot. This betrayal, this public collusion of humiliation, had crossed every limit of human endurance. Answer me. If your entire in-law family heartlessly ganged up on you, publicly wishing you would disappear right to your face, would you still be blind enough to swallow your tears and stay? Or would you have the courage to stand up and walk out of that hellish door forever?